Okay, so we are going to put the base coats on these miniatures, and we're going to do that with this cord of just latex wall paint. I got this, and you know, this is a good chocolate brown. That's what I want to start with. I got this off the Oops aisle. It's just a flat latex paint. I am going to use cup of water, brush, and this is just a cheap hobby brush. This isn't anything super sophisticated, but it's great for putting on base coats. And of course, I'm going to use my ceramic towel that has gloss finish and a paper towel. And these are the 4 pieces. You've seen them in the other videos. There's 2 medium sized, 2 small. They have, you know, tombstones on them. I put a candle. I put these little pieces of stone which were just pieces of resin that were left over from other processes of, you know, making miniatures. Same thing here is I cut this out of this tombstone, and this tombstone were cut out of the same material that we use for the basing, which is a just a PVC sheet that's 3 or 4 mils thick. I think this one's 4 mils. And anyway, I just carved some things on them so it would look, you know, like they were just random tombstones. And then these are just, once again, pieces of resin that I've cut and then kind of shaped into what looks like a small grave marker. And this is the last piece. This one has a resin piece that I picked up that is, you know, supposed to be like a tombstone or mausoleum marker. And then I put a couple of the other little pieces on there, like we've talked about. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this entire surface of all 4 of these with the brown paint. And then go back in. That'll be my base coat past the black. And then I'm going to go back in and I will start to pick out details, dry brush the terrain so that they all match, you know, with some other Oops paint just like this. And then pick out these tombstones to be, you know, like a gray or a, you know, marble. I could do a couple of different, maybe 2 different things, maybe some that are more like, you know, like marble or stone, and some that are like a gray granite, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll do some different techniques on them and pick up those pieces. These 4 pieces would go well on a fantasy, you know, for Warhammer Fantasy, the Old World stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 4 pieces with 2 larger pieces that are more mausoleum and hillside. These are just small pieces to go randomly on the table. I would probably also mix this with 2 tree templates. So if you think about it, I would go 2 tree templates, you know, these 4 pieces, 2 larger, you know, like graveyard pieces that are going to be almost the size of like 3 of them, and then 2 hills that could be part of the larger gravesite kind of thing, mausoleum. Or like I said, I might do 2 small mausoleum buildings, and then you'll see at the end, I'll put together a video with all of it on one table so that we can kind of just look over it and talk about it a little bit. But I think that if you give your tables that you're playing on themes like this, it makes the table like really stick out, be more memorable. When you have epic terrain on the table, it really makes for fun gaming, because you kind of get sucked into the environment of, you know, you want the game to be fun. And part of the game being fun is to make sure that the table looks very cool and is, you know, themed out. So especially if you were using Empire or Vampire Counts or, you know, any of the armies along those lines, even Chaos or Tomb Kings, something like this would be great. It would just be a really cool themed table that you could play on. So anyway, just to get started, this is super simple. I'm just going to paint this brown. So what we do is we're going to just add paint to the tile, because what I'm going to do is I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this, just because it's a little bit thick and I want it to go on just a bit thinner. But if you go too thin, you know, what we did to this point, if you're just watching this video and you haven't seen some of the previous ones, what we did to this point is we took this PVC, we put foam on it, then we covered the foam with, sheetrock mud or light spackle, and then we put, once that dried, we put PVA glue with sand. And if you get this too thin, you don't want it to be too thick, it's going to take too much material. But you want to thin it down some, but not completely, because if you get it too thin, it'll dislodge some of the sand, and that's going to happen anyway. But the wetter it is, the more likely it is that you could dislodge the PVA glue that's holding the sand in place. But anyway, nothing crazy here. I'm just going to do this 4 times, and so this video will be really sped up, past this first piece, because there's not much to it. And really what you're going to do is, of course, you're painting the entire surface with this brown, is what I recommend doing. Granted, if you wanted the black to really be part of what you're doing at the end, I would dry brush this on instead of wet brush this on. But I believe that, to get the look I'm wanting from this, I want it to be this darker brown as the base coat. And if some of the black pokes through, no big deal. But I really want it to be this brown. I think it'll look better at the end if I do. So once you have it all coated, you're gonna let this sit and dry. If you're doing it in the studio, that might take, an hour, 2 hours to be completely dry before you can dry brush on top of it. If you have some, if it's daylight where you're at and you got a little bit of sunshine and light wind, in direct sun with a light wind, this will probably dry in about 20 minutes or so, and then you can do the next stage. If you do like I do in my studio, sometimes I just pop a fan on to kind of speed up drying times in between stuff. That's what I'll be doing today. A fan, a ceiling fan, a box fan, anything like that. I have a ceiling fan and a tabletop fan. And I'll dry these probably in about 30 minutes and be able to go on to the next step. And some people might say, why is the bottom still white? You could paint it if you wanted to. You could even spray paint it if you wanted to, but it's going to scratch off anyway. So I typically don't really put a lot of investment into painting the bottoms. In fact, a lot of times I leave the paint off of the bottom, and I actually use permanent marker to mark sets that I want to keep together. Even though I'm boxing them together, sometimes things get jumbled up in your studio or your gaming area, and being able to know that certain pieces go with other pieces is very helpful, especially if you're doing multiple tables at a time. Like if you're doing an RTT, or you're doing a little tournament with friends, or, a little gaming session with friends, it's quite easy for your terrain to get jumbled up and then you not know where everything is. So I like to mark them at the end of a project so that I know that it's a particular set. I just name it with the same, number set or name set so that I know that's what it is. Now, also, one of the great things about using this latex paint on top of the spray paint, I did rattle can black on the top of this, and I will say that one of the good things about putting a latex paint over top of that is your durability, once again, is going to be even higher over time. When you use PVA glue with sand and spackle like we did on this project, and then you spray paint on top of it, and then you add a layer of latex paint to the top of that, this is probably the highest durability you could give any piece of terrain. The layers of protection that you're laying on top of it are so high that this terrain could last, 8-10 years of pretty common use without any problems. You're not gonna, beat it up so bad over time, as long as everybody's like not tossing it around or throwing it into the box that it goes back into after the game. If you're pretty, careful with these pieces, I've had pieces like this last for 10 years without any problems, or longer. But, I would say an average time span is about 10 years for a piece of terrain like this. And, when you talk about investing your time and your effort into a piece of terrain, having it last a very long time is one of the key factors into knowing that you're doing the right thing. Because if you put all this time and effort into epic terrain for your table, you want it to stick around. So high durability is one of the things that I really kind of harp with terrain making, because I don't know, it's so important. Like I said, with the time investment that you put in, and if you got a cool piece of terrain set, and it's set for a table, you really want it to be really nice. That is my dog Link. If you can hear that barking in the background, he probably sees a squirrel or a cat. Sorry, he's interrupting the film. All right, so there we go. I'm just going to set my brush to the side, move these pieces around. So this one, I need a little bit more paint down here. Anyway, sure you can see that, but there you go. All 4 pieces painted in that base brown, and then I'll go back out and pick out the gravestones and do dry brushing. I'll do the dry brushing first, just so all of the terrain bits are finished, and then after that I will go back in and pick out all the stonework and the candle, so that it looks well painted. Anyway, I hope that helps. I look forward to having you like, share, and just subscribe to the channel so that we can kind of grow the studio and keep doing these kinds of projects. If there's have questions or comments about how I did this, why I did it this way, please just drop down in the comments and talk about it. I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it. You could you could put base coats on with rattle cans and just paint from there, or you could use a airbrush. There's lots of ways to skin the cat here. It's just the way I prefer to do it. Anyway, talk to you soon. Thank you so much. We'll in the next video, we'll be painting all the details on the terrain. Talk to you soon. Bye.